Hey, and welcome, msKIRAspeaks. Before we get started, I ask that you watch the videos till the end, subscribe, and turn on your notifications. We are back again for another episode of Bel-Air, Season 1, Episode 2. Keep your head up. So the episode picks up where we left off. Well, kind of. We see Will and he is whooping Carlton's ass, but we're watching it on Aunt Viv's phone because kids, somebody is always recording something, and they did. So Will is trying to explain that that's not how this happened because they made it seem like he just jumped on Carlton for no reason. Will says, he was defending himself, but Carlton's like, he's nothing but a thug. But Aunt Viv, she's not trying to hear any of that. She tells Carlton, you're not innocent. He could have drowned. And Will says, he would have been in a body bag if it wasn't for this John Lisa. Lisa, Aunt Viv says. Now she's got it. Carlton's like, he was crowding her. So Aunt Viv, she sends them both to their room, but Carlton, he doesn't listen. So Aunt Viv's like, she gets why Will did what he did, but she asks Carlton, what's the excuse for his behavior? Aunt Viv, she goes in to talk to Uncle Phil and ask how it went with Connor's mom. She agreed not to press charges against Will, but they'll have to invest in a hedge fund she manages. But Uncle Phil points it out, they had a bunch of underage kids throwing a party with drugs and alcohol on a property they own. So Uncle Phil, he's not feeling this whole arrangement at all, and he's worried that the video of the fight might somehow reflect poorly on his campaign. Aunt Viv has to remind him, this is all of our campaign, so we're all to blame, Carlton included. And she reminds him that Will can't go back to Philly right now, and there's no one else to take him in. There's boarding schools, military academies. This was Uncle Phil's solution, but Aunt Viv, she's not trying to hear that. And he wants to know why we are working so hard for a boy that doesn't want to be saved. We owe it to him, she says. So they agree that they'll both go and talk to him. And if he doesn't respond in a way that makes them both comfortable, he's gone. Now, when they get to the room to talk to Will, he turns around. He's got a face full of tears. His mom called and Trey got shot. They don't know if he's going to make it. Aunt Viv, she gives him a hug. She holds him tight. And I guess that solves that for now. So next morning at breakfast, everyone is there except for, Will. He hasn't come down yet. And Carlton is stressing about, speaking at an assembly with his face looking like this. And Hillary teases him about, because your face is your moneymaker. Carlton doesn't think it's funny, but Ashley does. I was assaulted, Carlton says in his best Chad voice. Uncle Phil reminds him, you start a fight, you don't get to complain about how it ends. Good point, Uncle Phil. Good point. So Will, he finally comes down to join them, and everyone except for Carlton is sympathetic. And they ask, they're asking about Trey. He says his mom said the bullet went through his shoulder, but he hasn't had a chance to talk to him yet. Will is loving Hillary's breakfast made with her signature spice mix, and she wants to use the recipe for a taste test for her Hot Cuisine interview. Aunt Viv suggests she do a shrimp po' boy because Hot Cuisine will want something a little fancier. These two cannot seem to agree. Hillary didn't take kindly to the recommendation. She says that's not her brand. Carlton's like, well, what is your brand? And she's like, something that you can make without using a double oven or a proofing drawer. Uncle Phil says differentiating yourself is smart. Will and Carlton, they start to go back and forth because, Will's respecting her, being her. And Uncle Phil tells them, listen, y'all got to put last night behind you. Like, cut the BS. Enough is enough. It's time for everybody to go. So everyone's heading out, and Will tries to stop Carlton and talk to him. But the two of them, they cannot seem to agree. Carlton feels like he's owed an apology, and Will doesn't feel he owes him an apology. So in short, he leaves Will back at the house with no way to get to school on his first day. So Aunt Viv, she comes in and asks Will if he apologizes. And he said, I did what I had to do. Like when you pull the gun on a drug dealer, Aunt Viv is playing no games. So she's like, I just want you to think before you act. You're an honor roll student with a basketball scholarship coming your way. And they have more conversation, and Aunt Viv tells him, be the Will that charmed West Philly with his swag and his talent. She gives him the keys to the Lexus, so now he can get to school. Like I said, it's his first day at Bel-Air Academy, and he has no idea where he's going. Because when he gets there, Carlton basically sees him, turns his back on him, goes with his boys, and leaves Will to his own devices. So Will gets to the classroom and it's empty. So a few minutes go by, he gets up, he goes out into the hallway, he's looking around. Security rolls up and asks for his student ID, but Will goes immediately into his, PTSD from what happened with the police officer. So he takes off running and he runs right into Carlton's assembly. Carlton, is like, no, come on stage, Will, he's being Carlton, has everybody applaud for him. And, he's here to make an example out of Will. Carlton don't mean no good. So he starts talking about the public school that Will attended. How many AP classes did they have? Oh, okay. And what about study abroad? So Carlton decides that he wants to sponsor a struggling public school, and Will is embarrassed because he feels like it reflects poorly upon him in some way, like what he's saying. So under his breath, Carlton tells him basically, you don't want it with me, like these are my people. So we see Uncle Phil, and he's doing a radio interview with Big Boy and he talks about growing up in North Carolina and his family using their farmland to eminent domain because, they didn't know how to proceed. So once he got his law degree, he took a case in his hometown and was able to get his family money for the land that they lost. So as the two are talking, we learn that Uncle Phil is the only Black candidate running. Big Boy feels this gives him the unique responsibility to speak directly to the Black community. And as they begin taking calls, everyone starts talking to Uncle Phil about his finances. How much is your car? How much is your house? And I mean, he got maybe one thing about BLM, but everything else was like, how much money you make? How much is this? How much is that? And it just goes to show how out of touch he is with the community at this point. So we're back at Bel-Air Academy, and Will goes to talk to the basketball coach. But the coach isn't impressed, especially after, that weekend's fight. So he's like, I don't know what brings a D1 recruit from Philly to LA in the middle of a crucial school year when it comes to college recruiting. Good point, but we know the answer to that. But he's like, despite your stats, he's not interested in Will's drama. So we'll ask what it's going to take for him to change his mind. Tryouts. Will thinks he's above it, but then he finally agrees, like, all right, I'm gonna show up and show out and give you these tryouts. So in the hallway, he stops Lisa, and she's like, listen, we could talk, but I don't want to talk about you. I don't want to talk about Carlton. Like, I don't want to end up being the cold-hearted B word again. And Will says that Carlton's been telling people he accidentally knocked him in the pool, and Will went ham, and he wants to get the truth out there. But she don't want to be the one to blame. Like, oh, so make it look like I was the reason, y'all was in a fight. So Will, he's kind of hating on Carlton for being the coolest guy at school. But Lisa, she has to tell him that there's more to him than that. He's charming when he wants to be, and he remembers everybody's name and birthday. Hillary is at home, and she's cooking for the hot cuisine folks. I saw that shrimp po' boy, but there was also some greens on that plate and some coleslaw. So she thanks them for the opportunity, and they're impressed, but they want to give her the requirements before they can make her an offer. They would have to weigh in on her wardrobe, something more classic, neutral colors. They don't want the clothes to be more eye-grabbing than the food. And this new chocolate Hillary, y'all, she still embodies the style of the OG Hillary. And we love that. Before she posts anything, she'd have to submit her recipes for review. And they want her to make her food not so spicy, tone it down. And she tells them that's what people love about her cooking. Her family loves it. They were just raving about the spices that morning. All due respect, I don't think your family is our target audience. Oh, really? You don't say, Miss Karen, honey. What's that supposed to mean? So the guy with her, he tries to clean it up. Next thing you know, we're back at Bel-Air in algebra, and he's willing to take the first test on first day because he's an A student. Like Aunt Viv said, he's on the honor roll. A guy named Tyler comes in. He aggravates the teacher's nerves, talking about, oh, I'm late. I'm not late. Time is a social construct. And yeah. Teacher's like, man, just sit down. Just sit down. Will introduces himself, and Tyler is honored. He says he's been wanting to punch Connor in the face since the 6th grade. And it looks like Will has found his people. Outside, Connor confronts Will. He's got an order of protection on his phone. Will has to stay at least 10 feet away in school and 50 feet away anywhere else. His uncle is a federal judge, so he walks off and Carlton walks up, and Will, he tries to apologize, but Carlton's like, nah, it's too late. He wants to square up. He wants that smoke. And it took everything Will had, I think, not to laugh, but at the same time, Carlton kept going. And then finally, Will's like, listen, bruh, dude, if I lose, I lose. If I win, I lose. Will's like, listen, you got it. And he walks away. And that is exactly what Aunt Viv was trying to get him to understand. So, point for Will. Speaking of Aunt Viv, she asked if Hot Cuisine made an offer, why aren't they celebrating? And Hillary tells her she's not sure about some of the requirements. They go back and forth about who asked for what, and Aunt Viv says, this could elevate you to be the top culinary influencer. Hillary just wants to build on her own terms. This is how professional opportunities work, and you're going to have to give something. Aunt Viv tells her, push back and negotiate. Hillary takes a jab at her mom for being like, oh, the way you became an art history teacher instead of an artist. And these kids, I tell you, they can come with the disrespect. But Aunt Viv, she still keeps it cool and tells her, listen, this is your life, and whatever you want to do, I'll support you. So Jazz, he pulls up. He's about to hoop with Will. And this Jazz does sound like the original Jazz, or at least if you ask me. So as they're playing, Will, he's still having his PTSD, and he's like missing all his shots. And Jazz is, taking the ball from him and everything. And he asks, he's like, you good? So Will tells him about that night and Trey getting shot after he left. He hasn't touched a ball since. To survive at Bel-Air, he's got to find his way to shine. And his way has always been on the court till now. So he's got to, he's got to get it back. He's got to get on the team. Aunt Viv, she gets a call from Aunt Vi. And she wants to make sure Will is not being mistreated. She's like, listen, I didn't send my baby dad to be bullied by your little, And Aunt Viv's like, oh no, honey, he won that fight. But she's like, listen, I'm gonna need Will to stay there at least till Christmas break. And I'll send his things on out there if that's okay with you guys. She's like, Aunt Viv is like, listen, I got it. We'll handle it. Let me do this for him. So Uncle Phil and Jeffrey, they're sitting and they're talking and they're listening to music and having a drink and everything. And he asked Jeffrey what he should do about Will. And Jeffrey's like, give him some real time to adjust. It was a culture shock when he left Jamaica, and Will is going to need more than a few days to find his footing. And to me, these two are more like friends than employer and employee. And I like it. So Jeffrey says, he's had his eye on Will, and Will is trying. He tells Uncle Phil that he needs to meet him where he is. And Uncle Phil, he does just that. He goes outside later where he finds Will on the court. He's still trying to find his rhythm. Uncle Phil, he got hops, y'all. And he tells him, he put in the court for Carlton, who in turn fell in love with lacrosse and race cars. And Will, he's still missing his shots. And Uncle Phil asks what's weighing on him. He tells him it's like a movie playing in his head that day. And he was worried that any sudden movement of his life, he could be gone. Because he asked Uncle Phil if he ever been arrested, and I don't think Uncle Phil had. He says he didn't fight back or resist, and they still roughed him up. And Uncle Phil says, he apologizes and he says the system is broken. But Will's like, no, the system is working the way it's designed to. And Uncle Phil says, but things have gotten better. And Will's like, look how you living. I guess you would say that. So Uncle Phil's like, the one thing I know is that we cannot give up. Do you ever quit on the court? Never. Don't start now, Uncle Phil tells him. Gotta get out of your own head. And Will, he finally finds his groove. But who's hating on the sideline? Carlton. Carlton back there, y'all. Carlton is watching in the distance, and Carlton is tight. He is just so jealous. And it's like he does not realize that Will needs and he deserves that help and that encouragement. Like, he don't want to spare any of his parents' time or anything with anyone, and it's quite sad. It's the next morning, and Will FaceTimes Trey, and he finally answers. Will has a new number, and he almost didn't pick up. And he's right about that, because Will called him earlier in the episode, and he didn't answer, and Will left him like this, nice little message. Will asks him what happened to laying low, and Trey tells him Rashad is still looking for the both of them, that he got caught slipping outside the store. And Will's like, man, I wish I'd have been there. But Trey, he's a good friend. He's like, why? So you could have got shot too? So he's like, it's just a flesh wound, because Will is worried. And, they wrap it up because Will's got to get to school. So at school, Lisa's like, hey, Carlton, let me holler at you for a minute, homeboy. She's like, I don't want to be in the middle of you and Will. I don't want to start no shit with you. Like, we try to be at peace. We try to be cool. So she's she peeps a little something. She's like, what are you? Is that Carlton? So she tells him that Will does not deserve this and that he needs to get away from Connor and get some help. Carlton, he didn't like that, and he tells her that she needs to stay away from Will for her own safety. Ouch, Carlton, that's pretty low. So Will asks Tyler in class, to give him some advice on tryouts, and he tells him the coach is all about work. Don't celebrate when you score. No showboating. And that reminds me of Love and Basketball, when she was like, and she ended up having to hold it. That shit was funny. So the teacher is like, and that's the end of that conversation. Hillary is on her social media, and she is talking to her peeps, and she is asking them what they're willing to give up for a high profile job. So she gets a couple answers, and she tells them that she turned down a high profile job because they were wanting her to change her recipes. Her recipes are her culture. They told me that my ethnic family was not their target audience. So Hot Cuisine probably doesn't like your family either if you're a person of color. How about you let them know what you think about that? And I was totally with sis until she name dropped. And in this day and age, something like that will get you a lawsuit. So I'm just wondering how this is going to come back to bite her in her butt later. So Will, he's at tryouts, and he takes Tyler's advice. He's being a team player. He's not showboating, and it works. Coach welcomes him to the team. Will goes into the locker room, or I think they call it the PT room, and Carlton is mad he's there. This room is for athletes, man. And Will shows in his jersey like, oh, here go my jersey right here. And Carlton wants to know how he hustled his way into the athletics department. And Carlton is such a freaking hater, y'all. He really thinks that Will is some thug and not someone that was just up for a D1 scholarship. Ugh, the nerve, the audacity. So Carlton's like, you know what? He congratulates him, and he's making a snide remark. And Will tells him, you can't get in my head, but you, I done already set up shop in yours. And it's only a matter of time before I'm running this school. And he tells him to watch out. So afterwards, we're done. He's all, got his clothes on. He's walking on campus, and security stops him. Same security from earlier. He wants to search his bag. And at first, Will is a little reluctant. And finally, he's like, man, go ahead. Just go and search the bag. Ain't nothing in the bag. Go ahead, search the bag. And lo and behold, he finds drugs. What is that? That's not mine. I'm an athlete. Why would I use that? He's carrying on. He's not loud, but he's just like shocked because he's not his. And personally, where would he get it from? But we'll get to that in the next episode. So as security is escorting Will back into the building, I guess to the principal's office, Connor says to Carlton, I told you I'd handle him. Damn. Will takes a final look at Carlton before he goes into the building, and that is where we end. Please put your thoughts down in the comments because I would love to hear them. This version of Bel-Air is so gritty and dramatic, and I'm truly, truly enjoying it. Folks, they've had some problems lately with some of the black scripted shows, but this one to me is really on the mark. And I can't believe that Carlton is the freaking villain of the show. Are you guys surprised? If you have made it this far, put a basketball emoji for Will making the team at Bel-Air Academy. I hope you guys will come join me for episode 3. Episode 4 is out already, so I'm going to try to record and upload both of them this weekend. So make sure you keep your notifications on. While you're here, please check out some of my other content. Thank you. And before you go, like, subscribe, and share. I appreciate you. Peace.